Pueblo, and our route takes us through the mountains. This is an untested.
We're finally going to answer the most commonly asked question ever in the history of Vice Grip Garage. It's often said that every man has two lives, and the second begins when he realizes he only has one. For Derek Bieri of Vice Grip Garage, that second life came with sacrifices, setbacks, and silent heartbreak. From working alone to getting his tools stolen, Derek's journey was built on more than just horsepower. So, what happened to Derek? Why did the videos become shorter? And why did he fade from our screens? Stay tuned as we uncover the emotional story behind the man who nearly lost himself chasing his dream. Where it all began. Before the world knew his name, before the cameras rolled and the engines roared back to life, Derek Bieri was just a little boy in Minot, North Dakota. Buried deep in the stillness of the American Midwest, there were no bright lights, city streets, rolling cameras, or YouTube subscribers waiting on his next move. There were only long stretches of frozen land, endless skies that swallowed the horizon, and a young boy quietly learning to piece life together, one broken thing at a time. Minot was not the kind of town that bred fame or fortune. Instead, it shaped something far more enduring. It shaped resilience. It shaped grit. It shaped people who worked with their hands, fixed what they had, and prayed with their heads down. For Derek, childhood offered no buzzing electronics or urban comforts. Instead, it gave him the clinking of tools in a cold barn, the groan of aging machinery, and the whisper of winter wind sneaking under the door frames. Born on May 16, 1964, he was raised in a world where nothing came easy and no one ever came to save you. If something broke, you fixed it. If you couldn't fix it, you learned to live without it. That was not just a way of life, but the only way. Even as a young boy, Derek was drawn to anything with wheels, gears, or grease. He became fascinated by the rust-covered machines in the background of his family's land while other kids played ball or ran after one another in the fields. It was more than just fascination. It was also about survival. Vehicles were not toys or weekend projects on the farm. Instead, they were necessary equipment. They were vital. Every task depended on an engine. So, every tractor had to move. Every truck had to haul. In silence and with wide eyes, Derek watched as his family revived these lifelines. Slowly, he discovered that duct tape can save you time. Understood that oil-stained fingers were a sign of effort, not shame, and found that often the only warmth a frigid morning could provide was the soft rumbling of a running engine. Although he didn't have to be, his father wasn't talkative. The sound of each bolt they turned together was louder than any lesson. Having grown up listening to his father's instructions, Derek could hear his breath shortening as he leaned over old-fashioned engines. He watched his mother stretch meals across days, make do with little, and never once complain about the burden. They didn't speak often about hard times because there wasn't time to talk. There was only time to push through them. Without even realizing it, Derek absorbed every silent lesson. He learned to work with tired hands, make something out of nothing, and keep going even when nothing made sense. There is a silence that exists only on farmland. It is not peaceful. It is heavy. It settles deep inside your bones and lingers, even after sunset. Derek felt that silence more than most. It wrapped around him when the chores were finished, the horizon faded into dusk, and the world turned quiet. In contrast to our typical childhood experiences, no children in the neighborhood, no unexpected friend visits, and no homework or school project gatherings. Instead, there was nothing but the echo of distance, fields, machinery, and animals. It wasn't the kind of loneliness that shouted. It was the kind that sat with you, whispering questions late at night and waiting for answers that never came. That quiet ache became part of him. Derek didn't have a name for it then, but it left fingerprints all over who he was becoming. While other boys formed friendships in town, Derek found his companions in the machines. While others played games, he studied rusted engines. Where others sought conversation, he found communication in motion. Machines didn't judge. They didn't leave. They didn't ask questions. They simply waited. And Derek, time and time again, showed up for them. In Minay, self-reliance was not celebrated with praise. It was expected. Derek didn't grow up asking for help. He learned lessons like discovering the solution when the well stopped functioning, positioning himself beneath a stalled truck, grabbing a crowbar, and opening a slammed door. At this point, he realized that sometimes not everything needs a replacement. It just needs skilled hands to repair it. Derek realized the value of making do in that moment of need. He discovered how to combine disparate pieces in some way. He figured out how to make solutions out of scrap. And as a result, he found pride in every dirty job no one else wanted to do. To be honest, being raised among machines older than you has an emotional impact. Derek saw it daily. Tractors that had outlived the people who first drove them. Trucks passed down through generations and cars parked and forgotten but never abandoned. These machines told stories in their silence. Even when Derek was too young to understand those stories, he could feel them. Every sun-bleached seat, every cracked dashboard, and every glove box full of faded photos and old receipts was heavy. These weren't just vehicles. They were memories. And Derek became the kind of boy who couldn't ignore memories, even when they came wrapped in rust. The emotional mark left by rural life was quiet, but permanent. It didn't scream. It didn't demand attention, but it was always there. Derek learned to hide what hurt. He knew that emotion had no place in the barn. He learned that grief wasn't something you shared. It was something you carried. So, he had it. And he kept moving. He kept working. He kept fixing it. Because in the noise of impact wrenches and the rhythm of restoration, he could drown out the quiet sadness that always lingered just behind the trees. In Minay, dreams had to wait. No one handed you a spotlight. No one cleared a path. You earned every inch with sweat. You earned it by showing up before the sun, staying long after it set, and refusing to quit. Derek earned everything the hard way. There were no shortcuts, no favors, and no fast tracks. Just tools, time, and a tireless belief that nothing was too far gone to save. Derek was alone. Nothing special, nothing captivating. He was elbow deep in something broken, hoping it would come back to life before anyone knew his name. Or Vice Grip Garage turned into a haven for the forgotten. Why Vice Grip Garage? This may sound strange, but believe me when I say it's true. Derek Bieri did not establish Vice Grip Garage to become well-known or be listed among the wealthiest men in the world. Instead, he started it because he had something tangible to share. He grew up fixing old cars with what little he had. Looking around, he saw people online showing fancy tools and expensive builds. But in real life, most people couldn't afford that. Derek wanted to show something different. He wanted to show how anyone could run an old car with basic tools, a little know-how, and a lot of determination. He chose Vice Grip Garage because it reflected his work style. Vice grips are not the most advanced tools, but they do the job. That's what his builds were about. He wasn't chasing speed or perfection. He was showing how to take something broken and bring it back to life, even if the process was messy. His goal was to prove that people could do it themselves, no matter their budget or background. At first, his videos were just simple clips of him working on cars. He didn't have fancy lighting or camera angles. He focused on the build, not the show. He balanced real advice with real results. He would laugh at his mistakes, talk through his process, and teach along the way. He wasn't afraid to fail on camera. That honesty made people connect with him. It made the channel feel like a garage anyone could walk into. But behind the scenes, Derek felt the weight of being watched. As his channel grew, so did the judgment. People had opinions about how he worked, his tools, and even how he spoke. Some viewers wanted flashier edits, and others wanted perfection. Derek felt the pull to follow trends just to stay relevant. But he also knew that once he changed who he was for the views, he would lose the reason he started. So, he fought to stay true. He decided not to follow what everyone else was doing. He refused to fake drama or exaggerate repairs. He kept showing up with grease on his hands, doing things the hard way because that's what he believed in. The pressure to entertain was real, but Derek thought teaching and truth mattered more. Vice Grip Garage became a place where mistakes were okay. Trying was enough and knowledge was shared, not sold. Derek didn't want people just to watch him. He wanted them to learn, try, and fix something. That was his mission, and that is still what drives him today. Through it all, Derek kept his head down and his heart focused. He never forgot why he started. It was never about fame. It was about giving people confidence and proving that you don't need a big shop or big money to bring something old back to life. And of course, this dream came with an unavoidable price, the toll of burnout and overcommitment. There was a time when Derek Bieri could hardly feel his hands, not from turning wrenches or wrestling with rusted bolts, but from everything that came after, the filming, the editing, and the constant race to upload the following video. Impressively, Vice Grip Garage had grown fast. With that growth came a heavy weight that few could see from the outside. Derek was no longer just a man fixing cars. He had become a one-man production crew, a business owner, a spokesperson, and a caretaker of millions of expectations. Even when he was operating on only a few hours of sleep, the camera hardly ever stopped rolling. He worked until dawn on some nights because he felt compelled to, not because he wanted to. People were waiting. Sponsors had to meet deadlines. The YouTube algorithm demanded that new content be uploaded at all times. If he slowed down, the numbers would decrease and everything might come crashing down if the numbers fell. Bit by bit, that pressure started to wear him down. During some of his live streams, viewers observed that he appeared exhausted. Even though he joked and smiled, his eyes were different. His face began to lose the spark that had once illuminated it. During several interviews, his voice would trail off in the middle of a sentence. He would sit quietly for a moment, lost in thought, before quickly returning with a laugh and brushing it off. But those brief silences conveyed more than his words could. Derek was exhausted, both physically and spiritually. Every build had a deadline. Behind every smile was a script that he did not want to follow. The sponsors wanted polished content. Fans wanted more personal stories. The platform sought engagement, thumbnails, and trending titles. There wasn't a pause button. There was no actual break. It was just a man trying to carry the weight of an expanding empire on already strained shoulders. His family noticed as well. The days turned into weeks without rest. Meals were skipped. Injuries were disregarded. He struggled to get enough sleep between editing clips and responding to comments. The very thing he loved, bringing cars back to life, started to feel like a beautiful, powerful trap that offered him purpose, but took away his peace. The hardest part was pretending it was all fine. Derek did not want to let anyone down, disappoint the fans who believed in him, or risk the sponsors who paid the bills. So, he kept going, even when his body screamed for rest and his heart begged for stillness. But burnout is not silent. It shows in the way your hands shake after too many nights awake. It speaks through your tone when your passion starts to feel like pressure. And it steals your joy, replacing it with exhaustion. Derek kept filming, kept fixing, and kept pushing. But somewhere in those late nights and long drives, the cost of overcommitment became impossible to hide. The toll was real, and it left its mark. Family versus fame. Before becoming well known on YouTube, Derek Bieri married his wife Jessica in 2008. The pair built their life together on simplicity, modesty, and hard work. Derek developed a greater passion for restoring vintage cars and sharing his knowledge online as their family grew. What started as a small YouTube channel quickly grew into a major brand. Although